everybody. Recording live from somewhere. This is Zach Couples with episode number 137 of the Movement Debrief. And today, folks, I'm going to take a stand. Or am I? Because we're going to talk about home office setups. Should you stand? Should you sit? Should you quit? Who knows? But I got some answers for you on all things to make your home office setup on point. Because your boy, Big Z, abnormally large Z, has got a bunch of questions that have been asked by the people. They will be answered for the people by this people right here. Fam recognized fam. Without further ado, let's debrief, shall we? The first and only question today. I got to keep it a little short, unfortunately, but I think I can riff some bars on this one for sure. But this question comes from Marie. And here's what Marie asks. Hi, Zach. Any chance you can squeeze in some recommendations on home office setup in your next live session? I'm curious if you have a preference for types of chairs, desks, standing versus sitting. This is a great question, and I think a very timely question from Marie because, I don't know if y'all know this, but we kind of have a pandemic going on, and because of the pandemic and the difficulties of having in-person interaction, many of us, I'm certain, especially trainers, have had to switch to a significantly larger amount of remote work. And with more remote work comes more sitting. And we all know the deleterious effects of prolonged sitting. In the medical community right now, there's some people who argue sitting is the new smoking. Don't even get me started if you're sitting while you're smoking. But there's a lot of negative effects by having reduced amounts of physical activity. And there are many people out there who are trying to offset that by doing standing desks, by doing treadmill desks, by doing all types of things to mitigate the negative effects of prolonged sitting. The question is, folks, are these modalities efficacious? Is a standing desk better than a sitting desk? Well, I'm glad you asked because I dove into some of the research leading up to this, and the issue is the research is still in its infancy in regards to these modalities. So let me spit a few things at you. And folks, all of the research that I'll be talking about will be linked in the show notes, which of course will be found on zachcouples.com/office. If also too, if you're tuning in on IG or you're listening to this on the podcast or however, or you're on YouTube, checking the HD version, check out the show notes because I also type all of this up in blog format so you can really stoke your learning many different ways. Research. The first one that I'm going to look at is this great systematic review. It's called A Systematic Review of Standing and Treadmill Desks in the Workplace. This was done in 2014 by McEwen et al. It's pretty good. It's pretty well done. And the first thing we have to talk about is, okay, does standing or even a treadmill desk increase our physical activity levels in a way that's meaningful? And looking at this, if you compare standing to treadmill desks, coupled with another article that's in a post by the Harvard Medical Group, if you compare the calorie burn per hour in sitting versus standing versus treadmill, well, you really don't get big differences until we are going into the treadmill desk. In an hour, if you are just sitting, chilling, like Bob Dylan, on your computer, doing your thing, you're going to burn roughly about 80 calories per hour. When you switch to a standing desk, that number jumps to, wait for it, folks, 88 calories per hour. That's fairly insignificant. Now, if you're doing a walking or a treadmill desk, now we're talking about 210 calories per hour, which is fairly significant. Also, too, if we look at the systematic review that I had talked about, there seems to be better increases in postprandial glucose activity by using a treadmill desk versus a standing desk, meaning the way your glucose rebounds after a meal, the profiles are better with a treadmill desk compared to a standing desk, which to me makes sense. That being said, the research is mixed, like it isn't clear cut, because there's some studies that don't show this effect. And there's a couple studies where they compared relatively healthy populations to obese populations. And guess what, folks? In an obese population, there is a better profile of post-meal glucose activity compared to a healthy population. So if you're a trainer and you're fairly healthy, chances are it might not be that big of a meaningful change for you. So to summarize that point, we can't necessarily say that there is a major impact as of right now when comparing a sitting desk versus a standing desk. There might be some greater benefits to a treadmill desk. Now, the next question you should be asking is, okay, Zach, well, this is well and good, but how's my productivity when I'm in each of these things? Because if you're burning more calories because you're on a treadmill desk, but you aren't getting jack squat completed, well, then you're probably not getting adequate benefits. There's research on that as well. The systematic review, the same thing that I talked about. They looked at how well certain tasks could be completed. It doesn't seem, interestingly enough, that there's a huge drop-off in activity when it comes to standing desks compared to sitting, especially if the tasks are not that meaningful, meaning that you're doing typing or you're doing mousing activities. There's a slight performance decrement with a standing desk compared to sitting, but it's not that much. And in fact, there's another study. Great title, by the way. It's called Taking a Stand, the Effect of Standing Desks on Task Performance and Engagement. With a standing desk, participants in this particular study, and this was 2017, exhibited greater task engagement, meaning they were better to be able to alert, they had more enthusiasm while they were working for acute periods, 30 minutes or less. However, they also had less comfort. So if you're experiencing pain and discomfort because you've been sitting most of your time and now you've gone to a stand-up desk, problems ensue. Perhaps that can be offset by utilizing graded exposure to using a stand-up desk if that's something that you want to incorporate. But the problem is, folks, is we're only talking about menial tasks, and a lot of the research is them doing typing tasks or anything like that. What we're missing in the literature is how does one respond to meaningful tasks or creative tasks? No one is doing research on can the next great American novel be written on a standing desk versus a treadmill desk. And in fact, with a treadmill desk, when you look at going back to the systematic review that I'll link to you, they seem to say that there is worse performance, not a significant amount, but at least trending towards worse performance of work when we're looking at a treadmill desk. And to me, this makes sense. I've always found it significantly more difficult to either listen to podcasts or even read when I'm on a treadmill. So I couldn't imagine doing meaningful work while I'm on a treadmill desk. And in my eyes, especially if when we're working and we're doing a lot more remote work, we want to make sure we're doing meaningful, productive work. I don't think the cost-benefit analysis weighs in favor of a treadmill desk by any means. Does it weigh in favor in a standing desk? Maybe. For acute periods of time, I could potentially see some benefits. But when you look at overall, when you explore the current body of research and you look at how much the standing desks cost, which especially if you're someone who's getting one of the fancier ones, a lot of times the standing desks cost significantly more. And when I look at the cost of those desks compared to what we're getting on a physical activity and a productivity level, I don't see there being evidence weighing in a huge favor towards standing desks. And me personally, I have a standing desk at work that I use, but then when I'm at Elevate, when I'm working at home though, I'm sitting and I try to keep sitting when I'm working and I seem to be fairly productive. And what I ensure that I do in that case is I try to get up as frequently as I can so I'm not sitting for prolonged periods. Because if I sit too long and I'm staring at my screen and I'm alternating between screens, my neck will not be feeling so hot. if I get up periodically, and usually that's like every 30 to 90 minutes, and I go for a short walk, that seems to mitigate a lot of the negative effects. And to me, I think that if you can incorporate that into your schedule, it's probably going to be much more effective than having one particular desk. Because the issue with this, folks, is regardless of if you're sitting for a prolonged period of time or you're standing for a prolonged period of time, the issue in both of those cases is you're still not moving a whole lot. And when we're not moving, that's when tissue ischemia can creep in, meaning you have a loss of circulation to your tissues, and you might get some aches, pains, and boo-boos. And in either case, if you're not used to sitting for long periods of time, or you're not used to standing for long periods of time, your tissues may not be well adapted to that task, and you could run into problems. Regardless of what you prefer to work in, whether it's sitting or standing, make sure that you're moving in between bouts. And if you decide that I want to get the switch and go to standing more, or look, I've been doing the standing desk and it's not been going great and I want to get back to sitting, making sure that you titrate the amount that you're doing. It's just like if you wanted to get into running. You're probably not going to start your first day running with a marathon. Same thing with sitting. If you want to sit more because you've been doing standing desks and you're tired of it, if you sit for 4 or 5 hours, you're going to run into problems. No one is meant to be that immobile for that long. And same thing with standing desks. Here with this 2017 study, they talked about 30-minute bouts leading to increased discomfort. So you have to prepare your body for these prolonged positions. And that's the major key with this. And I would say personally, I would pick whatever desk you're comfortable with first, and then make sure you're incorporating movement breaks throughout the day. And there's research out there showing that we can work for a certain period of time, and it's varied. I've seen as low as 30 minutes, as high as 90 minutes, of where we can have focused, meaningful work before we need to take a rest. So find whatever your amount is, and then try to incorporate a movement break once your time is up. You're like, I'm not being as productive as I could be. And move as much as you can. Me, I like to take walking breaks, but for you, maybe you don't have capabilities of that because you don't live in wonderful Las Vegas, and where it's fairly warm most of the year. So maybe that's doing push-ups. Maybe that's getting a kettlebell and doing kettlebell swings. Anything you can do that breaks up the task of being stationary. That is the issue when it comes to specific desk recommendations. Now, I think there are some other things that we can look into to help enhance our productivity and reduce the stress of prolonged sitting. I would say we've talked kind of about our bodies and maximizing physical activity while we are stationary, whether it's standing or sitting. But one thing we don't think about is we're staring at screens for a significantly longer period of time, and what that can do to our eyes. We can have increase in eye strain. You get eye fatigue if you're not used to being on screens for an extended period of time, and this can be problematic. I think there are a few different ways that we can offset the stress of having to focus in on a screen for an extended period of time. First, if you don't have a second monitor that is larger, I would strongly encourage you to get one. Very early in the pandemic, when my remote work just skyrocketed, that was one of the first purchases that I made, and it has been an absolute game changer. I was normally someone who would work on a laptop, and I would do most of my remote consultations on the laptop. After you do a few of those, you get gassed. Once I switched to the dual monitor, it was like most of my eye fatigue was significantly reduced. It was incredible. And I don't think there's necessarily, if you have a curved monitor or a straight monitor, which is better, I would go with whatever you're comfortable with, but get something bigger. And like the one that I have right now is an LG, and I believe it's like 33 or 35 inches. It's great, especially if you're someone who has to do 2 separate windows. I think it's essential, because what I was doing, and when I do a lot of my remote consults, is I'll have Zoom on one side and then I'll have notes on the other that I'm typing as I'm working with someone. That's a really small amount of real estate on my 15-inch laptop monitor. Blasting that out into a bigger screen, Gosh, like I cannot recommend that enough, especially if you're stationary. So like when I'm doing mentorship calls and I'm not having to move around a whole lot, the second screen, man, I like hand on heart moment for a dual monitor. Get one if you can. They're not that expensive. And a lot of times you can find deals. Like there's a website called Newegg, which I'll link in the show notes. A lot of times they have really good deals on electronics, and that's where I got mine. If you're someone who's got to move a bit more, so like when I'm doing my movement consultations, obviously I can't just be stuck on my screen. What I'll do is I will actually aircast my Zoom call onto my television. That way I got an even larger screen, I can see what they're doing, and it reduces eye strain significantly. So if you have a TV that has those capabilities, I would strongly encourage you to do that, especially if you're someone who is on Zoom calls, you got to be moving a lot more and you don't want to be staring at your laptop. Game changer. And again, the nice thing about televisions is they're significantly less expensive now compared to several years ago. And you can get ones where you can either do the Aircast if you got Mac products or do Chromecast if you have Google products. Like, please, like, do that. Save your eyes. It will enhance your productivity. Another thing I would strongly encourage you to do is, even if your vision is good, hook up with an optometrist. I have very good vision. My vision is 20/15, but your clarity of vision is only one skill set that you have. I believe there's 14 other skills that your eyes can do, ranging from convergence, focusing, divergence, which is being able to look far out. All of those are important. And in fact, I just recently connected with an optometrist in Vegas. She's awesome. Her name is Corrine Landerville. So if you're in Vegas, like, definitely check her out. I'm going to go through vision therapy just to see if I can help improve some of those skills to better help me both retain what I'm reading as well as to focus better on screens. Also, too, if you can work with a behavioral optometrist, and I would look up covd.org to find someone who doesn't just look at sight. A lot of times they'll give you performance-enhancing glasses while you're on the computer. This can help reduce eye strain as well. When I went to the Ruska Clinic and worked with PRI Vision, I got a pair of glasses, and it's a very small prescription. It's only, I think this one is plus 0.5 on the right and 0.75 on the, or 6.5 on the left. I'm getting upgraded with my current optometrist to 0.5 on the right, 0.75 on the left, and those are pluses. And then we're also getting some prisms in to just help reduce the eye strain. But switching to glasses, even if it's a subtle prescription, can also help reduce the amount that your eyes have to work and can allow you to better tolerate prolonged periods on the screen. I would strongly encourage that you do that. Also, too, if you are someone who is working on screens later at night and you don't want this bright light kicking your butt, getting an app like Flux or using the Night Shift app on your phones or your screens is also a game changer. It can help reduce the eye strain. Life is good. If you're someone who doesn't want to use those apps, you can get blue blocking glasses. They're very easy to find on Amazon. Uvex is really cheap. I like these Helios ones, which have a little bit more of an orange tint. That's sometimes nice to reduce eye strain. Although I will say, since I've been going through the appliance therapy, I have noticed that I've used those less, but haven't had any negative issues with sleep. So, you know, I don't know where I sit on some of the sleep hygiene stuff, because I think there might be some much more real estate that you can get by improving your oral posture. But neither here nor there. Go see a behavioral optometrist. I would encourage you to do that. Get a light prescription to just help reduce strain on the monitors. And if you got the funds, I would strongly encourage you to check out vision therapy. I'll be documenting my process as I go through that. I'm really excited to see if there's any changes, because a lot of my issues are I'll have to reread sometimes, or just getting fatigued from being on the screens. Although it's significantly better with the monitors and the glasses, I do wonder if exercise will help enhance that even further. So definitely check that out. Now, if you are someone who has to do a lot of reading, maybe you're a student, and you don't want to be holding on to a book for an extended period of time, I would definitely get one of these bad boys. This is a book stand, best book stand and holder. It's really nice because it's got like these little things that you can put your book on to hold pages in place. That way you're just focusing on reading and not having to hold the book or anything like that. I'll link it in the show notes. It's a great product. They don't pay me, so I just like them. I have 4 of them. They're kind of all over the place. So I would strongly encourage you to get one of those book stands if you're having to read for extended periods of time. Other things that are essential to make your home office setup on point would be a good pair of headphones, especially if you got peeps in your house. Because I live alone, I usually have things casted on my speakers, my monitors, but if I ever have friends in town and I got to do stuff, or I'm out and about, headphones are essential. If you got them, get noise-canceling headphones. The reason why I like noise-canceling headphones is because when you block out all the excess sound in your environment, especially if you're someone who's working at coffee shops, you don't have to turn the volume up as much. If you don't have to turn the volume up as high, that means you're not straining your ears as much. If you're not straining your ears as much, that means you're not going to be needing hearing aids when you're 40, which is great, right? We want to protect our ears. We don't want to have to turn the volume up way high. In fact, I think that having noise-canceling headphones has helped me so much that when I have friends and they want to crank up the volume on music, I'm like, whoa, turn that down, which is cool because when I was younger, I wanted that shit up loud. And it's crazy just how not doing that has helped what I perceive as loud versus not. The ones that I like, if you are someone who is stationary, you don't have to move around so much with your calls. I believe these are the Sony WXM, the WH100 XM3s. They just came out with the XM4s. This brand is the gold standard in noise canceling on the market. They're kind of expensive. They're about $300. The new ones just came out, the XM4s, but these are money. They're incredible. They've been amazing on planes. Like, I've tried these and I've tried the Bose as well. I think these are far superior. And they look cool, see? Boom. So I would definitely, if you got money to splurge on, check these out. There's a cheaper product that I used back in the day that were the big over-the-ear ones called Monoprice. I think they were about $100. Those aren't too bad either. But if you can splurge on the Sonys, I would strongly encourage you to do that. Now, if you're someone who's got to move around a lot and you want something that's a bit more wireless and conspicuous, so sometimes during movement consultations, I will rock these. They're Status the BTs, I think. I'll link them in the show notes. These were super cheap. They're only $20, and they sound pretty good for calls. I honestly like using these for calls better than I do the Sonys. And they block noise pretty well. And the nice thing is they're not super, they're fairly inconspicuous. And I think they sound better than the AirPods. Because I can just put them in my ears, wraps around behind me, and yeah, they're awesome. So I really like these. So if you just need something that's kind of cheap and effective, these Status BT something or others are really nice. So I would definitely check that out. That's probably the other essential that I would say you need with your home office setup. Another thing too that I think was really impactful for myself, I ended up buying a separate Bluetooth keyboard, the Mac one, and then I got the mouse. And I tell you what, that also too has been quite impactful for me. And I think the reason why is because my current setup, and I'll take a picture of what I got and have it on the website. But I got my dual monitor set up. So I got the big monitor with the LG. And then I put my MacBook monitor up, and I use that to focus on calls while I'm typing on the other stuff. And I think what that's allowed me to do is it's allowed me to be far enough away from my screen so the eye strain's reduced. Ideally, when you're setting up a screen, you should be about an arm length away. And I'm able to do that when I have a keyboard and a mouse set up via Bluetooth, because that's just a great way to reduce eye strain. And then if you're pairing that with looking out in the environment for extended periods of time, so like my desk is right next to a window, so if I'm like getting a little fatigued, but I might not have time to get up and move, I'll just stare out into my window for 20 seconds or more at a time, just to reduce the convergence that you have to do on a screen. I think getting a separate keyboard and mouse is also essential. And in my eyes, those are some of the big things that I would consider when you're looking at setting up your home office to be on point. To summarize, the major things that I would consider if you really need to beef up your home office, there doesn't seem to be much research difference between standing and sitting desks. Treadmill desks might get you moving more, which is good, but it may inhibit your productivity, which is not good. So to me, pick whatever you're comfortable with. The big thing is to make sure you are moving and grooving periodically throughout the day, so don't hesitate to take breaks. Every 30 to 90 minutes, find your sweet spot of, I'm not being as productive. I need to get up and move, and get out and walk. Do kettlebell swings, push-ups, jumping jacks, something to break up the monotony of sitting for an extended period of time, or at least not moving for an extended period of time. If you can, get big monitors so you can help offset the stress load. Get a pair of computer glasses so you can offset the strain on your eyes. Look out into distance periodically. Consider doing vision therapy, because that could also help your eyes work better so you can tolerate the workload that we got from this whole pandemic thing. Get some noise-canceling headphones. Make sure your monitors are far enough away. And in terms of like chairs and things like that, I would find one that's comfortable. I mean, I'm about due for a new chair. One thing that I would look for that a lot of my colleagues recommend are the, what's the brand? The Secret Labs. I've heard that Secret Labs are really good. So if you need a comfortable chair, that might be one to look into. And if you do those things, your home office ought to be on point and you ought to be in business. And I think that's a good stopping point for us today. I want to thank all of you beautiful, sexy, outstanding people for tuning in. And Marie, thank you for the awesome question. If you want to learn more, right, you're doing remote work and you're like, man, I don't even know how to get better at that. Well, I can help you with that. I would check out zachcouples.com. Subscribe to my newsletter while you're there. You'll get access to a lot of coaching things that can help you, including my Human Matrix Foundation seminar, which is absolutely free, and the Common Compensations Workbook, which is probably essential to use if you're doing remote work, because it's much easier to pick up ways that your clients are cheating. And throughout my website, I give you a lot of strategies to help improve that. If you want to learn how to coach better remotely and you need some help with that, my seminar, Human Matrix, is totally an option for you, because we work on coaching people using our hands, not using our hands, all of that. And if you can coach a lot of fundamental things I teach in that seminar, coaching is going to be on point. I'm not doing any this year because, COVID. But next year, I got February 20th and 21st in Atlanta, Georgia, April 10th and 11th, Warren, Ohio, May 29th and 30th in Boston, Massachusetts, August 14th and 15th, Ann Arbor, Michigan, September 25th and 26th in Wyckoff, New Jersey, outside of New York, and November 6th and 7th in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm working on scheduling a few others next year, so definitely check that out when you get a chance. Other things that you can do on the website, we're talking about remote work. If you need help figuring out how to incorporate remote work into your practice, a great way to get an idea of what coaching someone remotely looks like is to go through it yourself. I can help you with that via a movement consultation. What that looks like is I will take you through my assessment. I will coach you remotely. We'll get you activities to improve your movement capabilities and get you to the next level. If you want to see what that looks like on the training end, we can also do online training where I take that same information, I take you through the same console, we set you up with good moves to improve your mobility, and then I show you what that looks like on a training perspective so you can maximize your motion and pursue your fitness goals without problems. If you want to learn how to do that with your supreme clientele, the mentorship program is a great way to do that. We do periodic calls via Zoom where I help you through troubleshoot through cases, didactic issues, anything that you need. And then the best part is I give you some homework and I'll give you some feedback on coaching, how you're assessing, either remotely, in person. Whatever you need to be successful, your boy got you covered. Once you've done that, you've gone through the services, you've scoured ZachCouples.com, you've read all my blogs, and you're like, man, I can't get enough of this guy. Good luck with that. Where do you go next? Check out Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. Search the Zach Couples Show. Because guess what, folks? There's 136 other debriefs out there. And, we didn't always have 2 cameras. I was always bald. I had a beard sometimes. Maybe you didn't like the bearded years, and you might just want to listen to me. So Apple Podcasts and Stitcher is the place to do that. Also, too, as I start doing more interviews, I have one on docket that I'm pretty excited about, that when I get to the editing process, I think y'all really like. And if you are someone who's passing through Las Vegas, you got something interesting to say, reach out to your boy, because I'd love to have you on here. While you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a review so the fam can keep growing. I'm also on the social medias. Find me on Facebook and Twitter. Search Z Couples. Of course, I'm on that Instagram, baby, at Zach, Z-A-C, Couples, C-U-P-P-L-E-S. And of course, you can also find me on YouTube. Search Zach Couples. If you want to see a lot of the exercises that I'm doing with my peeps and indications as to when you should prescribe these moves, that's the place to do it. You know I'm going to tell you to give it a shot. Thank you so much for tuning in. You've been a beautiful, sexy, outstanding audience. I hope that you keep it real, but not to the extent where things go wrong. Stay hungry, stay learning, stay moving, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.